He's editor for Politics First magazine. Hello there, Marcus. Nice to see you today. Yeah, let's start off with this line coming out there. You know, how plausible is it, do you think, that it could have been some kind of maybe deal struck up between the US and Turkey about this downed Russian plane?
Well, I think that's a distinct possibility. And why do I say that? Because America and Turkey are staunch friends and allies, and they have been since 1947, and when 1947 being the year when we can say the Cold War began. But the Americans have shielded Turkey politically, militarily and economically ever since then. And of course they've protected Turkey in its human rights violations and its gross misconduct when it comes to international law. And Turkey and America are not genuinely committed to fighting Islamist terrorism in Syria. Why? Because they are some of the most important roots of the fighting in Syria. They're the ones that helped create ISIS, al-Nusra, etc., etc. And the Americans and the Turks have been denigrating the Russian air campaign ever since it began, and have been attempting to sideline it. And they're still, Ankara and Washington are still intent on seeing the Syrian government overthrown, the Syrian state destroyed. So quite frankly, given the very close relationship between Washington and Ankara, and their very anti-Russian stance and their very anti-Syrian government stance, I would say it's a distinct possibility that both Ankara and Washington colluded. According
to Russia, of course, that plane was very much on the Syrian side. Maybe that will go towards explaining the mystery of why, if it was a genuine mistake, etc., Erdogan hasn't apologised. The President's also asked about Russian involvement in East Ukraine. Before we come to you on that, let's just refresh ourselves on what he said a bit earlier.
We never said there were no people there who carried out certain tasks, including in the military sphere. But that doesn't mean there are any regular Russian troops. See the difference?
Now, some journalists jumped on what he said there, thought, this is the golden gun, so to speak. This is admitting that there were servicemen, there were troops absolutely there in East Ukraine. Did you read it that way?
Well, no, I didn't read it that way, but quite frankly, Kevin, Western journalists remain very, very ignorant of Ukraine. Prior to the crisis in Ukraine, many of them wouldn't have been able to find Ukraine on a map, and if you'd said to them Kiev, they wouldn't have thought of the capital of Ukraine. They probably would have thought of a certain dish that you can find in Russian and Ukrainian restaurants. The reality is this, is that Ukraine is a very, very important part of the Russian people's identity, their cultural identity, their linguistic identity, and of course Kiev is the mother of all Russian cities. It's the birthplace of the Russian state, and it's only natural that the Russian government will have an interest in Ukraine, and we're talking about eastern Ukraine now, where millions upon millions of Russian-speaking people reside, either ethnic Russians or Ukrainians who consider the Russian language to be their mother tongue. So President Putin did not say there were Russian regular forces in Ukraine, eastern Ukraine. What he said is that yes, there are Russian personnel, there are Russian officials acting there in the interest of the local population of Donetsk and Lugansk, because these people have been suffering tremendously because of the Ukrainian government's dreadful, murderous policy towards them in terms of cutting electricity, cutting gas, shelling them, bombing them, either with artillery or with aircraft. So it's only natural that Russia will not stand by idly and will do something in eastern Ukraine. And